When Kelly Christou couldn't reach her mother on the phone, a sense of dread set in. She rushed to her mother's home, only to be met with a chilling discovery that would forever alter her world. The brutal murder of Carol Christou in her own home shocked the Windsor community and left investigators scrambling for answers. Initial efforts led nowhere, and the case went cold, leaving many questions unanswered. Until years later, a startling breakthrough would finally bring the truth to light. What happened on that fateful night? Who was the mysterious man connected to the crime? Windsor, a city in southwestern Ontario, Canada, lies on the south bank of the Detroit River, directly opposite to Detroit, Michigan. The city boasts a population of approximately 344,000 as of 2024, making it a significant contributor to Canada's automotive industry and known for its cultural diversity. In the year 2000, the case of Carol Christou unfolded in the city. Not much information is there about Carol, particularly of her childhood. What is known about her is that she had a husband named Bill and 2 kids with him, a son, Stephen, and a daughter, Kelly. The exact timeline of the incident is not known. At the age of 55, in 2000, Carol lived by herself and a dog, Cato, in a house on Windsor's 500 block of Brock Street. It's unclear whether Bill had passed away, or if he and Carol weren't together back then. Carol was characterized as having a kind heart by those who knew her around this time. Kelly, Carol's daughter, stated that she liked being of service to others. If she loved you, it was a deep love. Everything was going well in her life until an unexpected tragedy occurred. On September 29, 2000, the last place Carol was spotted alive was at Hurricane's restaurant on Sandwich Street. Her house, on the 500 block of Brock Street, was a quick stroll away from this location. At the restaurant, she dined with friends and her sister, Marlon Kaput. The same evening, about 11 p.m., she called her daughter Kelly. As usual, Carol's last words to her daughter were gentle and affectionate. Kelly reported that her mother said, "Well, sweetheart, I just want to tell you how much I love you one more time." Carol did not pick up the phone on September 30th, 2000, the day after. This was different from her normal routine, which caused concerns. Neighbors also noticed Carol's unusual absence from going on a morning walk with Cato. These indications alarmed Marlene, so she hurried to her sister's house, where she was met with a terrifying revelation. She discovered Carol's body lying on the bathroom floor. She was stabbed multiple times. Likewise, the sight of her loyal dog, Cato, was harrowing. He was also stabbed. Marlene called the authorities right away, who deduced that the dog may have been stabbed while guarding Carol from the assailant. Cato made it through, and upon recovering, was taken in by Marlene and her spouse, Walt. At the crime site, Windsor Police Department officials found a knife. For reasons that aren't specified, though, the police disregarded the prospect that it was the murder weapon. Carol had a security system installed, and strangely, there weren't any signs of a break-in. This raised the possibility that Carol knew her attacker. In their search for answers, authorities retrieved blood samples from the crime site. Unfortunately, by 2000, DNA technology had not advanced to the point where it could help determine the identity of the assailant. Eventually, the case ended up being cold. As time passed, the disturbing image lingered. Hidden beneath the veil of an unanswered mystery, Carol's assailant remained at large. Following technological advances, investigators again submitted the DNA from the crime site to Toronto's Centre of Forensic Sciences in 2017. Unfortunately, a complete DNA profile was not obtainable. In fact, the center was only able to retrieve her profile from the Y chromosome on the perpetrator's paternal side, suggesting that the DNA was that of a man. A critical letter from the center, sent to the police in June 2017, disclosed that the DNA sample positively matched with a man by the name of Robert Lutowski. This finding led to the next step. To verify his culpability, other male members of the Lutowski family tree had to be ruled out. When all other possibilities were eliminated, the investigators came to the conclusion that Robert was the actual perpetrator. Following an in-depth investigation, it was learned that Robert was a 48-year-old jobless parolee at the time of Carol's demise. Actually, Carol got acquainted with Lotowski via the neighborhood. Lotowski lived in the 400 block of Wyandotte Street. Kelly claims that her mother met Lotowski through a boyfriend, whose identity wasn't disclosed, and who died a few months prior to Carol's slaying. Individuals who knew Lotowski at the time described him as violent and aggressive in nature. During the investigation, authorities discovered more information about Lotowski's past. Lotowski was originally from Toronto, but spent a significant amount of time in Quebec, where he was imprisoned for criminal acts such as robbery and attempted murder. Following his parole release in the late 1990s, Lotowski moved to Windsor. Lotowski did different jobs, but his primary source of income was an undisclosed financial settlement. After Carol's passing, Lotowski stayed in Windsor until he too passed away. Lotowski died on April 11, 2012, in Windsor, bringing an end to the troubling incident that had occurred during his time there. Although Lotowski could not be held accountable for the crime at this point, the law enforcement expressed hope that Carol's family would receive some measure of justice after Lotowski was finally named. Kelly, Carol's daughter, had been trying to solve the mystery of her mother's slaying for 2 decades. When she learned of Lotowski, her emotions were dominated by bitterness. Considering the circumstances, she stated that it was too late for justice here on earth since he had already departed. There was nothing but anger. "I despise him." A statement announcing the case's resolution was released in 2020. During the announcement, Kelly, Carol's daughter, wrote a heartfelt letter that the police shared. Kelly and her family voiced mixed feelings via the letter, thanking the Windsor Police Department for their professional conduct and perseverance in cracking the case of her mother. They acknowledged the care and compassion shown by the police over the years and noted that while the pain of their loss remains, they are closer to finding closure. Staff Sergeant Ted Novak of the Windsor Police Major Crimes Branch emphasized that, despite the fact that justice could not be served because of Lotowski's death, the law enforcement's dedication to resolving the case and informing the public highlighted their devotion to bringing the investigations to its completion. Denver, the capital of Colorado, is a historic American city that dates back to the Old West. It is well known for its vibrant art community, multiple museums, and the National Western Stock Show. Its location at the base of the Rocky Mountains and its access to a plethora of outdoor adventures make it a haven for thrill seekers and environment enthusiasts. However, behind the renowned exterior of the city lies a mystery that has baffled its people for a long time. Located at 1111 Broadway in Denver, the crowded Broadway Plaza Motel was a hive of activity on December 7, 1994. Among the customers that night was a 39-year-old mother named Rita Desjardine. On December 6, 1994, hotel staff members came to check in on Rita because it was their job to do so every night. However, they did not receive any response from her. The hotel staff therefore thought that she may have been asleep. Nonetheless, when the hotel staff checked in the following day, on December 7th, and Rita still had not responded, they proceeded to use their master key to make sure their customer was okay. To their shock, the maid found herself in a bewildering situation as soon as she opened the door. Rita's lifeless body lying naked in the room, swollen, bruised, and covered in blood. Detectives from the Denver Police Department were notified right away and quickly made their way to the hotel. When they entered the hotel room, they saw men's and women's clothes scattered about and a broken table with a detached lay. They gathered tangible evidence from the room throughout their investigation, including fingerprints from a bedsheet, a bloody palm, a pair of men's shorts, and even stuff like glasses and an open gin bottle. After that, her body was taken for an autopsy. When the results were fully obtained, it was revealed that she had died of asphyxiation from smothering. Prints were also recovered at the crime scene, albeit they didn't yield any helpful leads. For a definitive comparison, none of the prints was detailed enough. The bedsheets with the prints were thereby sent to the FBI in November 1995 for further examination. In the course of the investigation, the investigators tried to find any witnesses in case they had any leads. One witness did provide a significant statement to the authorities, notifying them that she had seen an African-American male leave the motel room in question. Although there were several pieces of evidence, the investigation was unable to produce a conclusive lead, which ultimately led to the case being cold. But in March 2018, 23 years later, the detectives made the decision to test the gin bottle that had been found at the crime scene for DNA. After that, these samples were uploaded to the combined DNA index system for comparison. A few months later, the results came back and showed a positive match for a person who had been living in Virginia at the time. He was a 56-year-old man named Stephen Cumberbatch. Moreover, Denver records showed that Cumberbatch was also apprehended about a month prior to Rita Desjardine's demise, and that occurred within 2 blocks from the Broadway Plaza Motel. In the summer of 2018, the pair of men's shorts that were retrieved from the crime site were tested. The findings, which became available in September 2019, showed a partial match to Cumberbatch. Later that month, a special agent of the Virginia State Police filed for a warrant to take Cumberbatch's palm prints and saliva samples. Additional examination carried out by the crime lab of the Denver Police Department positively confirmed that the palm print found on the bedsheet belonged to Stephen Cumberbatch's left palm. Furthermore, DNA evidence had established a solid link between Cumberbatch and the murder. The reliability of this evidence was determined to be enough to warrant filing charges to the DA's office. 2 years later, in June 2021, Stephen Cumberbatch was extradited to Colorado to answer for the charges brought against him. On Friday, June 23, 2023, after the court proceedings, he was found guilty of taking Rita's life. Consequently, Cumberbatch received a life sentence in jail. This was the second time Cumberbatch was charged with murder in the first degree, the first being in Danville. Here in River City, at the age of 46, Cumberbatch was taken into custody by Danville police for taking the life of Karen Denise Atkins. In July 2008, Atkins was discovered with multiple stab wounds on a front porch in the 100 block of Hamlin Avenue. After being brought to Danville Regional Medical Center, she passed away on that same day. 2 months later, in January 2009, Cumberbatch was found guilty of second-degree murder and was given a 40-year imprisonment term. In an emotional statement, Jennifer New, Rita's daughter, thanked everyone involved in the case. Jennifer addressed her feelings with regard to her mother, putting an end to their traumatic journey. Now, finally, after 29 years, I can rest in peace knowing justice has been served here on earth and finally have closure. "Mom, I love you," she moaned. In the morning hours of February 4, 1989, an unknown intruder broke into a woman's apartment in the 3100 block of Casa de Campo. Armed with a knife, he made his way to her bedroom, where he subjected her to a brutal assault. The attack escalated as he choked her, stabbed her, and finally, in a horrifying act of violence, slit her throat before fleeing the scene. How did the authorities manage to track down the suspect decades later? What secrets were uncovered in the investigation that spanned over 30 years? San Mateo is a city situated in San Mateo County, California. With a population exceeding 105,000 residents, this vibrant city thrives on major economic sectors such as technology, healthcare, and education. Yet, in 1989, a gruesome and tragic incident disrupted the peace, casting a shadow over the otherwise lively and diverse community. On the early hours of February 4, 1989, just after 4 a.m., an unidentified man broke into a woman's apartment in the 3100 block of Casa de Campo. This woman's identity is kept undisclosed. Proceeding towards the kitchen, the intruder took out a knife and made his way into the woman's bedroom. He wore a bandana, preventing the victim from seeing his face. Once he was inside, he walked onto her bed and subjected her to a harrowing torture, including assault, choking, stabbing, and ultimately slicing her throat. Despite her fatal wounds, the brave woman proceeded to negotiate with the perpetrator. After he took off, she immediately contacted 911 for help. When the police arrived at the location, they made arrangements for taking the injured woman to a nearby hospital, where she was given immediate medical attention. Fortunately, she made it through the traumatic incident. In the wake of this devastating occurrence, the San Mateo Police Department launched a thorough investigation to find the person responsible and prosecute him. They managed to retrieve some DNA evidence from the crime scene, but the technology available at the time was not up to the task of analyzing it. Nonetheless, the stored DNA remained a critical piece of evidence, waiting on future breakthroughs and technologies to help solve the case. The authorities had a difficult time pinpointing the perpetrator behind the crime, even after conducting an in-depth investigation and interrogating multiple people. Detectives in San Mateo had a few possible persons of interest, but resulted in a disappointing dead end, as all of them were eventually proven to have no link to the crime. For nearly 3 decades, the case remained unresolved, casting a terrifying aura of ambiguity. Throughout this time, the victim stayed in touch with detectives. At last, in December 2020, a breakthrough occurred when detectives were able to find a match for the suspect's DNA. What makes this breakthrough even more astounding is that the DNA match did not come from the National Police's database. The exact procedure and specifics of how they linked this DNA to the suspect are still under strict confidentiality. But at last there was a face and a name to the suspect. He was 55 years old man and went by the name John Harris, Jr. Upon more investigation, it came to light that Harris and the victim, though weren't familiar with one another, shared the same neighborhood at the time of the incident. Harris's personal life still largely remains unknown. What known is that he spent the last 30 years mostly living in San Joaquin County before moving to Arizona around 2020. On February 24, 2021, John Harris was arrested near his place of employment, where he worked as a security camera installer. He was taken into custody and put inside the San Mateo County main prison. Harris was facing serious charges that included attempted premeditated murder and aggravated mayhem. If convicted, both counts could result in life sentences. Given the seriousness of the circumstances, a $500,000 bail was granted to him. During a press conference held following the arrest, Chief Ed Barberini of San Mateo Police said that the victim in this case had been informed. When the victim learned of the arrest, she expressed profound relief and thankfulness. She naturally felt a wave of strong emotions on this momentous occasion, as she had lived her entire life bearing the weight of that incident and its traumatizing memory. The authorities also brought up the likelihood of more victims. More so, they disclosed that further DNA evidence is being processed. As of the latest updates, John Harris, Jr. has faced ongoing legal proceedings. In 2022, pretrial motions and evidence hearings took place, focusing on the admissibility of DNA evidence and other testimonies. The trial was delayed due to procedural issues and the pandemic. In early 2023, jury selection began, and the trial proceeded with testimonies from forensic experts and the victim. The case is still ongoing with the next court date set for mid-2024. If you find this video compelling, show your support by giving it a thumbs up, subscribing to our channel, and ringing that notification bell. By doing so, you'll stay updated about the latest investigations and mysteries. Your support means the world to us as we continue to pursue the truth in the world of cold cases.